Do you have a group chat where you continuously talk about summer getaways but never actually go anywhere? Well, with Priceline, you can save up to 60% on your favorite hotels and also get amazing deals on rental cars and flights as well. And you can do it all from your phone. So stop texting and start planning. It's time to get more out of your summer. And you know, when you save more, you can do more. More adventures with friends, more unbelievable views, more walks on the beach, more unforgettable moments. Priceline knows every trip is a big deal, so tell your friends you found a great deal on the Priceline app and take your plans out of the chat and onto the road at Priceline, Priceline.com. Action super stud Frank Grillo, who's playing Lamborghini, by the way, coming up, is going to join me in the first half. First, there's Geico. Do you own? Do you rent your home? Sure you do. And it can be hard work. You know, it's easy. Bundling your policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you have so much to do already around your home. Why not make it easy? Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Hey guys, Michael Malice here. Be sure to check out my weekly podcast, You're Welcome with Michael Malice, now on Podcast One. You might know me from my terrible Twitter, my horrible books, or the nonsense I spout on podcasts like Rogan and Glenn Beck. It's all there. Are you black-pilled or white-pilled for the future of the UK? What is a man?
What is a man?
What is a no? What is it? Are you white pilled or no? Seriousness, Carl.
No. I love the Jesse Lee piece of question.
The fact that you discovered that gives me hope for some of the things that I've still got that are missing.
Well, if you need James G. Blaine's autograph, you are welcome to it. Of course, being the co-author of How to Have Impossible Conversations makes you the perfect guest for this train wreck of a show. New episodes are available every Thursday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast One, and wherever you get your podcasts. You are welcome.
From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Today, Adam sits down one-on-one, times two, with Michael Mann and Frank Grillo. And now, if hindsight is 20/20, his foresight is 2010. Adam Carolla.
Get it on. Got to get on the choice. Get on mandate. Get it on, and welcome to the program. We're going to do a couple of one-on-one interviews. We'll start with Frank Grillo. Paradise Highway is the name of the movie. And then we'll get into Michael Mann, who will be in the second half. Ironically, talk to Michael Mann, who's in Italy right now shooting the Ferrari feature. And Frank worked on Lamborghini. So it's going to be a lot of hot Italian car talk going on. Good to see you, Frank.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You know, it's so funny because after our conversation, knowing you own those mirrors, I got to drive one of the original ones. And every time I talk about the movie, somehow you pop into my head because we had such an intense conversation about those cars.
Well, I'll circle back and tell you why I was early money on those cars at some point in conversation. I think we should hit Paradise Highway first, and then we'll take that highway to Lamborghini at some point. See what I did there? In theaters and on demand as you hear this out now. Morgan Freeman's in this, and a lot of recognizable faces. I just watched the trailer, action-packed, so let's talk about that. Where'd you film it?
We filmed that in Mississippi, where Morgan lives. So if you want Morgan in your movie, you go to where Morgan is.
You got to bring the mountain to Morgan, I guess, as the Bible would say. Had you worked with Morgan Freeman before?
We've been in the same another movie before, but we've never worked together. We really didn't work together in this either. We were supposed to do a movie together, so I'm hoping, before I leave I get to work with the guy.
You're your path to stardom is interesting because we're about the same age. You've been knocking around for a long time, playing heavies and brothers and, not leading men. And then all of a sudden, just very recently, or at least it feels that way to me, you've come into your own at the ripe old age of mid-50s. How did that, what is that?
I'll tell you what I think it is. I could be totally wrong, and I'll probably get chastised for saying this, but I think what's happened is in this business, in this time, we've lost a lot of what we would consider men. I think being a man has become a difficult thing in the world, and I think people just kind of see me as I've been around, I know how to do the job, and I'm fairly authentic as a man. And I think it's served. I think it's just a timing thing, and it's served me in this genre that I've been working in.
Well, I've always said, I was just saying to Dr. Drew yesterday, because he always goes, where are we heading? Where are we heading? And as a society. Yeah. And I always go, look, safe space is an octagon. So for every safe space and a college campus, a new martial arts dojo will open up. And for every Prius or Tesla that's sold, somebody's buying a Jeep and putting brush guards on it and a lift kit and knobbies, And for every softening of a male role and a cisgender, transgender, here are my pronouns person, that gives way to we want some kick-ass dudes. Like there's
right, exactly right.
It's like for every kale salad sold, there's 2 corn dogs sold. There's some.
Brother, listen. I just bought a 1971 refurbished Bronco with a 5.0 liter Coyote engine. Cost me more than my Range Rover.
Yes,
and it makes a lot of noise and drinks a lot of gas. And I'm not going to be very popular in my West Hollywood neighborhood, but those are the things that excite me. So you're right. And I think that's I think I'm the Bronco of actors.
That's good.
In Hollywood.
That's good.
And I think we need. Look, I again, not always the most popular person in the room, but I have 3 sons and I raised them in kind of a stoic way. Like, I make them read Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and I live my life a certain way. And I'm not going to acquiesce because other people feel at the moment that I should be something else.
Well, it is an interesting time we're living in, and guys like you and I who've been there and done that, and who have had football coaches kick the shit out of you and had teachers backhand you and had foremen on construction sites, call you a pussy. And, I had my foreman on a construction site I would say, but imagine doing this today. He told me once, he goes, go to my truck, get my 4-foot level. I said, yeah, okay. Started walking towards truck. He goes, hey, run. And I started running. Could you imagine? You get sued out of existence, right? That'd be a hate crime.
I know. Listen, my old man was my foreman. Like my old man, he was a construction guy. I worked for him. I was a laborer. I mean, the abuse that I took from my old man.
People don't realize on a construction site, it's not enough that the laborers just dig ditches all day and demo out stucco and drag stuff that's covered in asbestos without a mask, up to a dumpster. They also are verbally and emotionally abused.
All day.
It was like you'd say to one of these guys, I got to go, hey, do you know where the cat's paw is? And they'd go, if it was in your ass, you'd know where it was. That's not helpful. I'm getting $7 an hour, and I'm sweating my ass off out here. Can you tell me where the goddamn crowbar is? But to guys yes.
Well, I was going to say, what's funny is those days that I thought were miserable, I longed for. And the places that I tend to live my life, which is my gym with my guy, Justin Fortune. Inside that gym is that same world.
Right.
That if anybody from the outside would come in there and listen to how he talk, they would melt. They couldn't believe it. But it's all done in the same vein of ball busting that you did on the job when you were at the construction site.
Yeah, people don't realize it's sort of like when people try to coach you up or go, here's how you do this, which is all that was. Here's how you do this job.
Right.
When that stops, it means that people stop caring. You know, I think there's this new thing where everyone's going, hey, get out of my face, or I know what I'm doing, or whatever. It's like that person who's older than you, that knows more than you, is telling you what to do, even though they're not saying, I care about you. That's the act that's transpiring. And the day they just leave you alone and watch you do it the wrong way and walk past you and don't open their mouth, it's the day they're done with you. And you should never.
You're doomed.
Yes. And I know it feels like they're hassling you, but it's the day they stop hassling you is the day you got to worry about.
Exactly right. And it's like raising kids.
Right.
You know, my kids roll their eyes every time I say something to them, and I'm telling you this probably to save your life, dum-dum, and I know you resent it at the moment, but you'll figure it out.
Well, now we got to transition from rolling their eyes to you rolling your R's, doing your Federucci Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Did you? I watched the trailer, by the way. It was killer. So it's interesting, and just so people know, and it is funny that our next guest, Michael Mann, is in Italy working on Ferrari, which he'd been working on that story for 25 years, literally. But there's a couple things that are interesting about Lamborghini, and then you tell us what you learned through playing the man. You know, Ferrari inspired Lamborghini by being kind of a douche to Lamborghini, and Ferrari inspired Ford to create the GT40 by being douchey to Ford. So not only is Ferrari responsible for Ferrari, but in a weird way, we have Lamborghinis, we have Aventadors and Countachs and Miuras because of Ferrari, and we have the Ford GT because of Ferrari. So
who beat him? I mean, they beat him. So I mean, in the sense of Ford, I mean, listen, the genesis of the story of the movie because Lamborghini's a very successful tractor manufacturer. He made amazing Lamborghini tractors. They still do.
You can find them. They have vintage ones out there as well. Yeah. You can find old Porsche tractors as well if you guys collect.
Yeah, I drove one of the Lambo tractors. But Ferruccio Lamborghini, once he became wealthy, he bought a Ferrari for every day of the week. He was obsessed with Ferraris. And all he knew was that these clutches and these brakes would wear out in a ridiculous amount of time. And he had his Lambo tractor mechanics retrofit the stuff from the tractors to the Ferraris, and it worked. And he had this, light bulb idea that he would go to Ferrari and they would join forces, and Lamborghini would help Ferrari. And Ferrari, it's a legend, told him, "You're go make your tractors."
Right.
Which is what Gabriel Byrne, who plays Ferrari, basically told me in the movie. And that sets the guy off into his journey of making cars.
Yeah, it's so funny. So my relationship with Lamborghinis is everyone grew up, remembers the poster with the Countach and the big hairband videos and all that, but they don't know what happened sort of pre-Countach and how he started. And I remember being, so every year, and you should put this on your bucket list because we're getting ready to go. Every year you go to Monterey for the car week. I bring Paul Newman's race car and we race all weekend. And at some point, you also end up down on Pebble Beach on the lawn seeing all the beautifully restored cars. But they have the Italiano Concourse. And Italiano Concourse is like Friday afternoon or something in between races. It's a golf course near the track. So we go there. They have all Italian cars, Alfa Romeos, Ferraris, everything. And this is about 15 years ago. I went to the Lamborghini section, and I was like, hey, they got a Countach over there, got a Miura. And then I saw the 350, which is his first car, and the 400 2+2. And I was like, what is this? What is this? Because for me, my knowledge stopped. It's like being an NFL player and not knowing that Mike Ditka played in the league. You think he started as, as a coach, And I was like, what is this? And it's a 350 GT. It's his first car. And I was like, what? It's a smallish looking car, sleek, modern looking, really cool. Yeah. And it's got a V12. I'm like, it's got a V12. I thought it'd have a straight 6 or 4 bangers. No, it's a V12. Went home. I went on eBay and I bought a 2+2 on eBay, a 400, the next car he built, out of Pennsylvania for like $115,000, sight unseen. And then I bought a 350. Then I've owned 2 Isleros, 3 Miuras, 2 400 GTs, and 1 350, which is his first car. I don't have them all today. First car.
Wow. That 350, he kind of poached a lot of car companies for their talent, engineers, and I think Pininfarina designed that body. If my memory serves me. And it is an understated Lambo by any stretch of the imagination when you see his other cars. I got to drive the one that was in the Geneva Auto Show that he put in, was his first car. Yeah. And I think it was like a $35 million euros is at this point. I literally had guards around me when I got in the car.
Yeah, because of the value of the car.
I was so impressed with that car because when you think about the Lambos now and you think about that car, he went such a, then he made the Miura, which people say is the most beautiful sports car ever made. And I was in the yellow one, which is in the poster. I was in that car. And then he lost the company. Then that was it. That was kind of it after the Countach.
Oh, really?
And his son inherited the company and then dismantled it because he hated his father.
Wow. I didn't know that part.
Yeah. The son was on set with me. Now he's in his late 70s, early 80s. And there was fire in his eyes every time he saw me act and be his father. Like it was like a palpable thing. And I was like, hey, man, I'm just an actor.
Wow.
But it was a real, the father left him everything. And he pretty much dismantled the whole, because he felt like the car was the reason his mother and Ferruccio, broke up. It's really interesting story. Because the movie's based on the book that the son wrote.
It's an interesting, I don't know, metaphor, allegory or something just in life. And, the thing I've certainly learned is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if you take a look at something like the Lamborghini story, just metaphorically, forget about being a car guy. You go, this guy got successful. He made tractors. Then he bought Ferraris. They didn't work right. So he built his own car. He built some real innovative cars of beauty. People would say the Miura, probably the first supercar. So incredibly, had a, if you think about the technology of the time, built his first one in 68, built the P in 68, the S came along in 69, 70, then the SV, which is kind of the big mothership. I had 2 S's in an SV at some point. Jesus. But it was a transverse mounted mid-engine V12. Aluminum heads, aluminum block, 4-way disc, independent. Transaxle. It was technologically insane and beautiful. So he starts off life. He builds some of the most beautiful cars ever created. Then at some point, it starts to get finny and kind of flabby and kind of plasticky and kind of 80s out, and like everything went to hell, like women's hair or architecture or whatever. Everything just got fucked up in the 80s.
Yeah.
And now
but he was gone by then.
Right.
He was gone.
And now
he was out of the company by then.
But as a company, now it's 2022 and Lamborghini's putting out some of the coolest shit on the planet. So it's never over. You know what I mean? It's just cycles and ups and downs and everything.
It is a great story. The guy was a genius. He drove his engineers, who were at the time were the best in the business. He paid everybody well, and he poached the best in the business. He drove these engineers crazy because he had the vision that these engines and the things that shouldn't be able to work, that he could do it. And he made them nuts, but he made them successful at it. And that's kind of the great thing about this guy. But he was a sad story. It was a sad story, though. His personal life, like many geniuses, many great men, you can't be Lamborghini and create all of that. He also had an air conditioning and refrigeration company that was the biggest in Italy.
Wow.
So this guy was an industrialist. Yeah. But how could then you be a great father and a great husband? Well, he also loved women.
Well, as I think about it, it's kind of interesting. It has to go this way because
right.
Guys who are gifted, maybe they got a little dusting of Asperger's or whatever it is. They become obsessed with things and whatever like that. All the woman wants is to be hugged and told she's special. You know what I mean? Right. And these guys have a head full of calculations and deadlines and engineering reports. It could never be the same person. Women mistakenly believe they could have both. They think I'm going to have this guy as a genius over here, and he's an engineer, and he's a raconteur, and every night he'll be home by 9, and we'll spoon.
That's the story. By the way, Mira Sorvino plays my wife, and that's the story. She's like, "Why are you chasing these cars? You have we have everything we could possibly want." And he looks at her like, "Boy, she just doesn't get it, does she?" It's like, and I'm just paraphrasing, but that was the story of their life. It's like, what is he going to do with her? At some point something's got to give, and it wasn't going to be his dream. Which is just, a great man, accomplished great things. Was he a father? No. Was he a great husband? No. So does that make him a bad man?
Well,
and that's what the story is about,
Yeah. I mean, the idea that your name is on a name badge of some of the most beautiful cars ever created, meaning the son's last name, it's got to be worth a couple of points. I got Carolla, but it's a shitty car and it's spelled differently, so it doesn't. But it's something, What is your
shitty car, but sold a lot of units?
A lot of units. Stamps.com. Drop what you're doing and run to the post office. Well, that's a pain in the butt, especially if you're trying to run a small business. Use Stamps.com, the 24/7 post office you can access anywhere. I've used it here for 12 years plus. We ship merch and books and paperwork. It's always Stamps.com. Plus, exclusive discounts like 30% off USPS rates and 86% off UPS rates. So whether you're an office sending invoices, an Etsy shop sending products, or a warehouse shipping orders, Stamps.com is your solution. Sign up with the promo code Adam for your special offer, including a 4-week trial, plus free postage, and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. The scale's great. It's digital. I think it goes up to 80 pounds, so you're covered. Stamps.com. Click the microphone at the top of the page and enter Adam. Do you own? Do you rent your home? Sure you do. And it can be hard work. It's easy. Bundling your policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you have so much to do already around your home. Why not make it easy? Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could save. It's Geico Easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Adam Carolla's 6th book and audiobook. Everything reminds me of something. Advice, answers, but no apologies. Dear Adam, should you answer, and if so, how, your wife if she says, if I ever agreed to a threesome, which one of my friends would you choose? Ray Romano.
She's got you painted into a corner. This is the wife's version of the cop asking, have you been drinking tonight? There's no acceptable response. A cop is not going to believe, I just had a beer after work. In the same way your wife is not going to believe, no, honey, I only have eyes for you. Try to avoid the question. But if she insists, then you have to answer, I'm not going to tell you which of your friends I'd like a threesome with. That's just going to get me in trouble. So I'll tell you the one I wouldn't want to have a threesome with. Cynthia. She gives horrible head.
Everything reminds me of something. Available now, wherever finer books are sold.
Frank, you're let's see, I saw you in Jay Leno's Garage, and you're in such a phenomenal shape all the time. And I know you do jiu-jitsu, and you've done a lot of boxing and wrestled starting at a young age, and I know that's all plays a big part in your acting and your physicality. But what is your regimen? Yeah. I always ask the guys that are in phenomenal shape, what is kind of the breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What do you do? Yeah. Give us a schedule.
Yeah. So on the daily, and this is even when I'm on location, on the daily, I basically wake up at 6 a.m. I'm in the gym with my trainer, who's Justin Fortune, who trains Manny Pacquiao. I go through what would be a professional fighter's regime every day. That includes strength and conditioning. I eat. I'm not kidding. I eat maybe once a day, midday. I'm a paleo guy. I eat meat and fish and vegetables, mostly just meat and fish. And I go to sleep by 10 o'clock. You know, my one vice is I like to drink French rosé. Other than that, I've never smoked. I've never done cocaine. I'm kind of a boring dude. I raise my kids and I work, and people kind of make fun of me for work. Like, you're oversaturated, you're this, that. And I'm like, hey man, it's either I work and take care of business, or I sit at home and try to cultivate some weird career you think I should have. And that's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I don't get the criticism of work, especially if your work is your passion, then is it work?
Yeah, man.
But
you can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I feel this. I feel the same way. But did you? For me, I have an element of I wasted a lot of time in my younger days, and I don't mean my youth. I just mean when I was 25, I was just driving around as Zuzu Trooper with sacks of ready mix cement in the back of it, going to some house in Reseda and putting up fence posts. It wasn't exactly creatively a great use of my time. And I didn't get anywhere until I was 30, 31. I really didn't make any inroads in the business. I was a carpenter, and I taught boxing as well. So I have a little feeling of like, I wasn't Britney Spears, I didn't hit when I was 16 and a half. I had 30 years of nothingness, of just sitting in the back of a class and staring up at the ceiling tile and counting the holes in it, and now I have this element of, hey, let's make some hay while the sun is still shining. Do you have that sense?
Brother, you could have just described my life. I really I didn't get going until I was 29 or 30 or 31 years old. Same thing. And, I never expected, to be at this age and to have all the opportunities that I have. Now, look, it's so funny because in the last interview I just did, they said, you've worked with so many people, who would you love to work with? Michael Mann was one of the guys. I said, boy, it would be great to work with a guy like Michael Mann. And in any event, so here I am, and I'm getting offered all these things for a great amount of dough. I got 2 ex-wives and 3 kids. And I love what I do. And what am I going to do? Say no for the sake of I'm the same way. I'm like, how much longer am I going to be able to do this?
Right.
Like, what am I, and I'm, like you said, I'm not Colin Farrell, who at, 20 years old became Colin Farrell. It's like, good for you. It didn't happen for me. That wasn't my life. So it's basically, we're parallel. I'm the same way, man. I own a pizza place. I'm involved in a clothing company. I'm in the fitness business now. I'm never, that's what I want to do. I want to create stuff. And if somebody's giving me the opportunity, why would I not want to take advantage of that?
Yeah, it's such a gift, and it is weird when people tell you to kind of slow your roll on what is a gift, a passion, and also what separates you from 99.999% of the world's population who's going to some shit job they hate,
I know, man. I know. I don't get it. So, look, Sam Jackson has done 3,000 movies. Is he oversaturated? I don't think so. People like seeing Sam Jackson. So I'm like, I'm not a believer in, first of all, look, I don't want it to sound like goofy, but, I'm in Hollywood. I'm not of Hollywood. Like, it's not my life. Like Hollywood, the world of Hollywood, it's not my life. I kind of live here and I do this thing, but I also have other things I want to do, and being able to do these movies allows me to do those other things. So it all kind of
that's 100%. I was making $7 an hour on a construction site. I went there. God damn it! There used to be a exotic used car dealership in Van Nuys, California, off of Van Nuys Boulevard, right off the 101 freeway. And when I was making $7 an hour digging ditches, I went over there once and I looked at a black Lamborghini Miura. And I just remember staring at it through the window going, God damn, it's so low slung. It's so sexy. It's,
right.
It's such a sexy shape, which transcends, that's not like, well, sexy for the 60s. No, sexy for now, sexy 10,000 years from now, sexy 200 years ago, sexy in Jesus's time. It is all, it's just timelessly, it's Raquel Welch. You don't think she would hold up?
Exactly right.
Right. And I looked at that car, and at the time, they probably wanted $40,000 for it or something. And I just remember looking at it and go, I make $7 an hour and taxes are being taken out. Like, what are the chances I'll even get near a car like that? Like, I didn't even go into the dealer because it'd see me walking in with concrete dust on my jeans, and they go, get the fuck out of here. I wouldn't even go in. I would just look through the window. But I was like you. I was like, if I could make money doing something, then I could get one of these one day, and I want to get the money to do that. That was the plan.
That's the plan, right? So how do you kind of criminalize me for which I'm telling you, people tell me this all the time. You work too much. I'm like, in what world is that sentence? Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay, I work too much, but guess what? I allow my family certain luxuries, and and like you just described 22 cars that you own that are far more valuable than, it's amazing. You looked at that Miura and then you own that Miura. When you think about the chances of that, Adam, you think about the probability that could ever happen. It's not very likely, right?
I want
to stop the thing that could afford me a certain life. By the way, I'm starting to feel the mortality. I'm starting to feel, oh, wait a minute. This isn't going to last forever, is it? You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
If I look back, you look back 20 years, I was 36 years old, 37 years old. Now I look 20 years forward. I don't even want to think about it now.
I was driving home yesterday, and I was like, a Norm Macdonald, friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's gone. Gilbert Godfrey, friend of mine. Oh, it's gone. Bob Saget.
Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta. Not a friend of mine.
Ray Liotta.
But gone. It hit me because we were sitting around on my desk the other day, and we were talking about old shows on MTV when I used to be on MTV, and it's like, oh, that show, Remote Control. Talking about, oh yeah, Ken Ober used to host that show. Yeah, what happened to Ken Ober? He used to do radio out here. Just see him on Remote Control. He's dead. Died at 52. Santa Monica apartment.
Listen, that happens.
Yes, it happens.
That's what I'm talking about. So let me wait at home for the right role that you think is the right role for me, and everything will be fine. It'll be good.
And by the way, Paradise Highway is the name of the movie. Frank's con, action-packed, Morgan Freeman in it as well. Just a good, gritty story. If that's not a lot of special effects, not a lot of CGI, just real.
No, just Juliette Binoche, the great Juliette Binoche, kind of leads the way, and it's her and I play brother and sister, and it has to do with sex trafficking, and I kind of play a simpleton, a little bit of adult. Who's emotionally damaged. A little bit of a departure from me, but it was a chance to work with Juliette Binoche and Morgan Freeman and those great names, and have some fun. And it's a good picture.
Yeah, it is. Do you? I'm thinking about your motor. I'm thinking about your creativity. I'm glad you've never done cocaine. Don't ever do cocaine. You will be the most. You'll be the most obnoxious guy at the party. Frank Grillo beaked up on cocaine. Wanted to talk Lamborghini.
No, you don't know Joe Carnahan.
Oh no, yeah, I do. I do know Joe. You're right. Frank would be the second most obnoxious guy at the party. But so now in all the endeavors, so what of creating, directing, writing, those endeavors.
Directing is the next thing on the plate. Like it's a time consuming endeavor. So I got a couple of movies that I'm going to do up until Christmas. One back in Italy, actually, and Lamborghini's going to the Rome Film Festival. So we're going to be out there for that. And then I'm looking to find something that I won't embarrass myself with and something that I can handle for my first time directing. Because a lot of these little movies that I do, Adam, are some of these directors are pretty green, and I wind up directing the film partially myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like between that and having been partners with Carnahan for 6 years now, I think I'm about ready to just dip my toe in that pool and check it out. I could suck at it. Who the fuck knows? But it's certainly something that in 2023, that's kind of on the list.
You are ostensibly directing from the other side of the camera if you've been acting for a long time, and you're sort of directing yourself when you're making choices, along the way. But anybody who's made some movies, I've made a few movies, you end up sort of especially if you write the movie or create the material, because if you create the material, the director's going, here's what we should do. And you go, no, here's what I was thinking when I wrote it. And you kind of de facto direct yourself. So I'd say anyone
you do
who's been direct, it's like you have a boxing coach, let's say. You're not a boxing coach, but you've been coached by a boxing coach for 20 years. You could be a good boxing coach tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And it's you don't quite have the 10,000 hours of actually being the coach, but you've been coached so much that you could coach. And I would say the same with directing.
That's a great analogy. In fact, when I'm in the gym on sparring days, I'll be in the corner of these young fighters, young pros and stuff. And, Justin will be standing next to me, and I'll watch and I'll say, watch his feet when he throws that left hand, or he's thrown his jab and his hand's coming back to his waist. He's going to, and so it's just a matter of, you're right. I don't have the 10,000 hours in as a coach, but I have the 10,000 in being coached.
Right.
And it is exactly the same thing. And now I've done 60 something movies with great directors that have Academy Awards and shitty directors who should never direct again. I've been in those movies too. And so I've learned, that's why I say I would love to go work with Michael Mann. Guarantee you Michael Mann's talent is hiring the right people. So he probably doesn't over direct anything. You know, he talks when he needs to.
No,
and
100. Look, it's what Lamborghini did. You got to go poach the best engineers, the best fabricators, the best. You bring them over and you corral them, you coach them, you pay them, but that guy builds those Colombo engines and that guy shapes that aluminum and he gets the English wheel out and you let that guy do what he does. And then you put your name on the car and become the genius.
It's listen, I remember when I was in school, one of the first books I read that were like business oriented was Ted Turner's book. And that was kind of the crux of how he created his business, was just to hire a lot of people that were a lot fucking smarter than him and let them do their jobs.
Yeah.
And there you have it. You know,
I'll send you out. Let's see. I got a boxing movie for you to watch.
Great.
I got some car docs. Maybe you've seen them on Netflix, but I don't know. I'll send you out a care package.
I love it.
Got the Paul Newman racing doc. I don't know if you've seen it. We can send you that one out. Got Ford versus Ferrari, the doc. We can come send you out that one. Or come on out. Come on out to the Valley. I'll show you a bunch of Paul Newman race cars. You'll.
I would, brother. I got to tell you something. If you're serious about invitation, I would love to come out and see what you got out there.
It's really crazy when you see the Paul Newman stuff, like sort of in the flesh, because it's
right.
just.
And by the way, my favorite actor on the planet ever in the history of acting is Paul Newman.
Well, I don't know how tall you are, but you could try on.
I'm not very tall. I'm
okay.
only 5'10".
Okay,
5'10".
good. We'll see if you can get into one of his fire suits.
Because he was like 5'8". He was a little guy, right?
Yeah, he'd probably say 5'9", I guess.
Okay,
but he was
so
not. He was kind of diminutive. Yeah. He wasn't a big guy, but we can suit you up. I also have one of Tom Cruise's fire suits too when he raced with Paul Newman, but that's going to be too small for you.
Yeah, he's
Concrete. Your body makes half the creatine it needs. The other half comes from your diet. But most American diets are low in creatine-rich foods, and that's where Concrete comes in. Patented creatine, HCl. It's the favorite creatine of elite, well-informed athletes. Drew swears by the stuff. I do it every morning. You will feel the difference. It's the number one bioavailable creatine and the only microdosing creatine. Just one small scoop per 100 pounds. Shake it up, down. It tastes good. Creatine is required for functional energy in every cell, and your brain uses about 20% of the creatine in your body. So get on track with Concrete. Am I right, Dawson?
Take control of your health, both body and mind. Build a better you with Concrete. Register now at con-crete.com/podcast. That's con-cret.com/podcast for a chance to win a $500 Walmart Visa gift card. Available now online and in-store at Walmart. Concrete is truly life-changing and performance-enhancing.
All right, Frank, I'll hit you off the air because I'm probably 6 miles from where you are, and you can come down and kick some tires if you want.
And I'm home. I'm literally home for the next 4 or 5 weeks, so I'd love to come down, man.
Let's make it happen. The movie Paradise Highway, Frank Grillo. So good to speak to you, my friends. Always fun.
Always a pleasure, brother. Fresh air.
I'll hit you off the air, and Michael Mann from Italy is coming up next.
All month long, the biggest movies are streaming free on Pluto TV's Popcorn Summer Movies. Watch star-studded blockbusters like Titanic and Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Or fall in love with charming rom-coms like Hitch and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. The best part? Pluto TV is 100% free. No credit cards, not even a sign-up. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies, TV shows, and more. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming now. Pluto TV. Drop in, watch free.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Does your vehicle squeal or grind when you try to slow down, or is it just not stopping like it used to? Maybe time for some new brake pads and rotors. Good. O'Reilly's got all that stuff. Your brake system is one of the most important safety features on your vehicle. Brake noise can be a sign that your brakes are wearing out. Doing the complete job can help restore like new braking and ensure your safety on the road. Now through May 24th at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 15% off a set of Brake Best Select or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors. The professional parts people at O'Reilly can help you find all the parts to get the job done right the first time. Keep your brakes performing at their best and save money now at the local O'Reilly Auto Parts or order online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired their personal trainer as a caterer.
All right, folks, let's keep this line moving. You there with the tongs. Picking up one Duchess potato at a time will not cut it at my catering table. Drop and give me 50.
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Okay, this is what we call the wild mushroom and asparagus dip, and press. Come on, let's get those plates above your heads.
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
Director extraordinaire Michael Mann. Look up his work. Incredible. He's going to join us from Italy, where he's working on the Ferrari movie. First, there's Geico. Do you own? Do you rent your home? Sure you do. And it can be hard work. You know it's easy? Bundling your policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you have so much to do already around your home. Why not make it easy? Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
For just $25, you get wine and gifts. Ace's favorite stuff or products from ACS. Every single month, you get the drink you choose. It's hard to beat. Cool stuff and booze. Adam's Monthly Nut. Adam's Monthly Nut.
People of Earth, it's time for another installment of Adam's Monthly Nut. This month, we got things that will take care of your body, soul, and scrotum. Like a sample pack of Tame the Beast Nut Butter, a blend with Tuck Everlasting anti-aging and anti-chafing ingredients that will keep your sack tight. We've also got the great Dano's Seasoning, who will make each and every kind of meat taste even better, whether it's beef, pork, or your fellow man. Dano's is low sodium and no sugar, so even Vinny will approve. We've also got Nude Mints to not only freshen your breath, but your gut biome too. These incredible products and a bottle of your choice can be found at CarollaDrinks.com for only $25. So prep your mails box. A new month of Adam's Monthly Nut has arrived.
All right, Michael Mann is joining us all the way from Italy. He has a book out, Heat 2, a novel. It's available now on Amazon or wherever you find finer books. It's his first novel. We all know Michael Mann as a writer, director, Heat, Ali, Last of the Mohicans, and now working on Ferrari in Italy. So, you know, a lot of questions about that. And one of my favorites that a lot of people don't know about, which is Manhunter, which the original Hannibal Lecter was launched in. Good to speak to you again, Michael.
Good to see you. Yeah.
I many questions about the book and many questions about everything, but a question that came to mind as I was talking to my son last night, who's 16, I said, "Oh, you got to see Manhunter." That's the original Hannibal Lecter, Brian Cox, just hits it out of the ballpark. And I was thinking about that scene that I always think about where the Bengal tiger is sedated and the blind woman is dragging her hand across it. Yeah. And it's a scene that is just etched into my brain because you guys have to go see it if you haven't seen it. But it's this 1,000-pound Bengal tiger which has been sedated, and a blind woman is just dragging her hands across the teeth. And it's beautifully shot, but it's also eerie and kind of bizarre and scary. How did that come about?
It came about. It's one of my favorite scenes too that I've done. It came about because I wanted three things to happen simultaneously, and they're all stacked one on top of the other, and they're all hopefully affecting you at 100, each one 100%. Dollar Hyde, who's the serial killer in Manhunter, is attracted to the blind woman who works with him because she can't see him, and he believes so he feels confident enough to connect with her. Understands that because she's blind, she's competent with other other senses compensate. And so he understands how meaningful it'd be to her to feel the breath of this tiger and to be able to actually pet a sedated tiger. And at the same time, in his mind, he is that predator. He is the tiger. And at the same time, he's also fantasizing being with her, and we're within her experience. So all of those are operating simultaneously. And because she can't see, she doesn't see him behind her in a kind of in this fever dream of the situation he created.
I'm glad that scene is one of your favorites because of all the scenes and all the movies and so much work and such, over decades. That one is always just etched into my brain. I didn't even get all the nuance and subtlety of it because I saw it when I was 23 in my apartment in North Hollywood on a rented videotape, but I just never forgot it. So nice job. The novel, this is your first novel after all these years of writing so many screenplays. Why a novel?
Because, first of all, these characters never stop being alive to me. And kind of in the way I work is, I do a lot of first-hand research and in building these characters for the actors, for myself, in the writing, and you wind up knowing everything about them. They're based on real people, but then you go even further. And so they're fully alive in my imagination and continue to be so. And then as I move through life and have different experiences, and I'm, say, researching something quite different than Batam across from Singapore, and I'm on a boat in the Strait of Malacca, and what if Krisha Hurlis, the Val Kilmer character, was here? And what if, you start thinking along these lines of what, we left him. The novel begins one day after the end of the movie Heat. And the last one left alive is Krisha Hurlis. He's wounded, delirious, and is desperate to get out of Los Angeles. That's the beginning. And it moves both backwards in time and then forwards into what his life's going to become and his evolution of being the same kind of fully integrated, mature man that, say, the Pacino character or the De Niro character were in Heat. And as well as a bunch of other characters. And so, you start imagining world as the world evolves, and the kind of 19th century bandito activities they had, holding up banks, evolves into much more sophisticated forms of globalized criminal activity. And that's the world that Krisha Hurlis really starts to innovate within. So that becomes very exciting. So it's kind of, you got the character with you, and then you move through life, and so it then becomes a big canvas, and that's what I wanted to explore in the novel.
Yeah, that in the movie Heat, I think first time Pacino and De Niro were together on screen. Is you bringing them together? Is that correct?
Right. It's the first time they were together in the same scene, and it was interesting to me because I felt that when you're with De Niro, you want what De Niro wants. When you're with Hannah, Al's character, you want what he wants. And the two are diametrically opposed, but you want them both 100%. So you want Hannah to intercept and
Normally, it's the bad guys and the good guys, and then every once in a while, there's a Butch and Sundance situation where you're rooting for the bad guys all the way through, but you're never rooting for the good guys to catch them. This is you did quite a masterful job of balancing that.
It's really like a dialectic. These two trains are, they're going to intersect, and when you're on one train, you're riding that train, and the other train, you're riding the other. And that was the challenge of it, and that's what made it exciting. And that same kind of excitement is there. The ambition was to have the same kind of excitement. The novel, but what it proceeds from is very interesting. As the first time I spent some significant time with criminals or convicts or cops, or and you realize that you have been naive, that your ideas of who they are and what their lives are formed by derivative dramas that you've seen in movies or television. And in fact, life is as complex as it is for everybody else. It's dimensional. So then my job becomes to mine that and try to understand it, because everybody is somebody else's brother or father or son or sister. The thief, the professional thief, I based thief on, John Santucci, would constantly talk to me about his marital problems. And they were middle class than anybody else, except he had two families. That made it a little bit more difficult.
So you're in Italy right now. You're working on Ferrari. We met in your office several years ago. I don't know, 3-4 years ago. I think that was before Ford v. Ferrari came out, which you were executive producer on. And I know that was your story and something you were honchoing for many, many years. And I know you've been working on Ferrari for many years as well. How long have you been working on Ferrari, the movie?
A long time. And Sidney Pollack and I started on it together. And there's only one. I've been involved in some projects. If they can get together in 90 days, terrific. If not, you forget about them. So what keeps one involved isn't just a stubborn insistence. It's the other thing that keeps you involved, and that is that there's a nucleus to the story that's so good that, it just sustains, it just holds you. And every time you think, do I really want to get involved? And you read the screenplay again, you go, wow, this is great. And the nucleus was written on Ferrari by a man who I knew quite well, Troy Kennedy Martin. I did some additional writing after the fact, but he really created the gold that's at the center of it. And it's a fabulous, totally unexpected human drama about an innovative genius leading an amazingly complex life, all of which comes into collision in 3 months in the summer of 1957. So it's not a biopic. It's only 3 months in 57. And with a deathly race that happened called the Mia Media, which is 1,000 miles across open roads. And, so when you hit unique pieces of content after having, engaged in and passing on all kinds of other stuff, they just stick with you. The Ferrari story stuck with me. The relationship of, Hannah and what happens with Chris Hurlis. There's a conceit in Heat, something that is made up. That I decided that what happened to these characters would be a function of how they think the world works. And so Neil McCauley deviates from that disciplined risk versus reward, no attachments, and it undoes him. Christian Hurlis has no concept like that whatsoever. He's kind of postmodern, and Ashley Judd should just turn him in. It'd be better for her son, better for their son, better for her. And he smiles at her, and she just gives him that blackjack dealer's thing with her hand, and he gets a pass. He just seems to land on his feet, and so that's what happened to these characters. That's how why that determines what happens to these characters, and then kind of continue that through into what happens in the novel with a whole range of other characters as well.
Do you have more ideas than you have time to execute them?
Yes.
And is it just sort of you're walking around all day sort of nursing a head full of ideas and, oh, this would be a great idea for a project and that would be, I know the feeling a little bit because when you make documentaries, you hear a story and you go, that would be a great idea for a documentary. And then you see some other shiny object and go, no, that would be, and then you go, I want to do them all. And you have to kind of pick and choose and figure out, you know, your time. And can you ever shut it off? Can you go on vacation and just sit on the beach, or do you have to have a pad and the pen next to you all the time? And then people look at that as plagued or burdened. But on the other hand, maybe it's the ultimate freedom. You're just kind of doing what you want all the time. But can you shut it off and get away from it?
With great difficulty. Like I said, I'll get away from it. Like if I get the flu or a virus, then you're just laid up. You get a day of absolute, you don't care what's going on. But no, I mean, there's, Mark Bowden wrote a brilliant book way in 1968, which I want to do. There's a science fiction project that's just in the future that I really love to do. So there's way more things that I want to do than I think one could do in one's lifetime.
Was Miami Vice, the TV show, was that, I guess we call it the big break, or what was going on for you before Miami Vice, the TV show?
It obviously had a really huge impact, but not really. It was more that I had a lot of exactly the same kind of development that you're talking about. Where I wanted to tell this story about the Golden Triangle and this other story about what was going on in South America, which became Contragate, and had all these things I was developing as movies. And then all of a sudden we get to do 22 hours a year of content. And for the first 2.5 years when I was active in it, I was able to just exploit all of that content and say, wow, let's do a 2-part episode called Golden Triangle on the Golden Triangle. And then let's do the way the Contras and the CIA thing. And so we did something that actually aired on the Friday before Hassenfuss got shot down, which then opened up Contragate. And then why don't we cast G. Gordon Liddy in the guest role we did. And, so that's one of the things it was. But I started writing television early, a little bit earlier in the middle 70s. And Bill Blinn created Starsky and Hutch, but the pilot aired a year earlier. I wrote what wound up being the first 4 or 5 episodes of it. And then from there went to Police Story, which did exactly the same kind of work that produced Heat 2. It was all based on real events. You talk to real people. And then I became a hot enough television writer so I could extort a directing gig. And then I directed one movie the week, The Jericho Mile, which won some DGA and Emmy awards, and that enabled me to launch Thief, which I'd already written. That was the big game plan, but I had failed to figure out what happens after the first feature.
Well, now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. There are many ways to support your healthy brain. Learn a new language. Take power naps. Yeah, get some exercise. There's also BetterHelp online therapy. Look, it's so important, especially in this day and age, young, old, whoever you are. You need some therapy to really make things make sense, and then it'll help every other facet of your life. BetterHelp, online therapy, offering video, phone, and even live chat, only therapy sessions, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you do not want to. More affordable than in-person therapy. Get matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. And again, get your head right. And then you can go off and conquer the world. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Carolla. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Carolla. I know I was thinking about this yesterday because I was thinking about Ferrari, and I know you've been thinking about it for probably 20 years plus.
Right.
It's crazy. So I have many, many questions, but I was thinking that in Miami Vice, they drove a Ferrari Daytona and then they switched to a Testarossa at a certain point, right. I think. So they're both Ferraris. So I was like, well, maybe Michael's always been a Ferrari guy, even if he didn't know he was going to make a movie about Ferrari, or they were just cool, flashy cars to drive around in Miami in the 80s.
No, I was the very first decent paycheck I I spent on a 308 in 1979, and bought it in Belgium, complied it, gray market, and then took everything off it again and ran high compression pistons in it. And no, I mean, I knew what Ferraris were well before Miami Vice.
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't car people, back then they would have the European spec, which was always more compression, less smog compliance, smaller bumpers, all the stuff you want, all the cool stuff. And they're just better, but they were called gray market cars, and they'd have to make them compliant to bring into the U.S. And then probably Rain Man probably has that scene with Tom Cruise at the beginning where he's at the warehouse with all the Ferraris, and they're trying to bring them in and get them spec'd, get them smogged. That was the whole thing in the 70s and 80s and beyond. But so here's a philosophical question for you, Michael Mann. Certain things come together and they just flow and you're up and running in no time. And then certain things like Ferrari, 20 years in the making for you, maybe more. How do you know what stuff to hang on to and what stuff to let go? Because it is a business where you do have to walk away from things at a certain point when it's clear the cosmos aren't accepting it. But then sometimes you hang on to something, and here you are in Italy in production after 20 years. Here you are. So it was good that you hung on. And how do you decide? You decide. You get in a quiet place, or go to a coffee shop or a bar or someplace, and you do the basic. You read the screenplay, and it'll either rock you or not, and there's something human and powerful in a story, and your commitment is just absolutely reignited. It never diminished on Ferrari because it says things about life that dramas don't do. It's not packaged. Nothing works out the way you expect it to work out, or that you see in stereotypical dramas. And it resonates with the way we are and the lives we live and the emotions we have and the irreconcilable conflicts that go on all the time. And when it hits that nerve, you just stick with it. This is also a very funny movie, Ferrari. His humor and wit and strategy is fascinating. And that's the same thing with I keep going back to Heat. It's the same thing with Heat and the Heat 2 novel. They're real lives, and they're exciting and contradictory and raw, and it takes you into worlds you haven't seen and experienced, and so that's what hooks me in. I'm not interested in seeing the third iteration of a conventional film. I'm excited when I'm in a new world, and that's whether that's 1957 or 1757 and Mohicans, or 1888. 1988 or 2008. I think what the chapter in Ferrari's life you're talking about I don't want to give away too much, but it is out there historically, which is the Mille Miglia. There was a crash. Spectators were killed. Drivers were killed, I guess. And he was brought up on manslaughter charges, I think, in his own country of Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah, he what happened at Deportago. It's a 1,000-mile race across open roads, bad roads, in through cities in Italy, and it was the biggest race every year. It's kind of Italy's Le Mans, and a very charismatic Spanish racer named Alfonso Deportago, very romantic character. Tyrone Power left Rita Hayworth for an actress named Linda Christian. She left Tyrone Power for Fawn Deportago.
Wow. Well, you leave Tyrone Powers for somebody. That guy's got it.
Yeah. So he's and there was a kind of a glass marble eye in the road. It was been broken and his tire hit it, and the car catapulted on a rural road into a bunch of people, and 9 people got killed. He got killed. He was going about 140, 150 miles an hour when it happened. And then, being Italy, somebody has to be at fault. You got to blame somebody. And so he was blamed, and there was a court case that lasted. It was totally exonerated by name, but it took a couple of years.
Did Ferrari have a sense of humor? He's always played or portrayed in these movies as the big guy, in Ford v Ferrari. He was that guy. He's always such a serious guy. Is portrayed in any movie or even beyond I've ever seen him portrayed in. Is very serious with a scowl on his face and a perfectionist, and nothing is ever good enough. But people forget he had a son, Dino, who died at a young age. He lived, he had some loss. He tried to bring his wife into the factory and kind of get things squared away with her. But the sense of humor part, I never hear about.
He was strategic about everything, and there was there's tongue-in-cheek humor, there's sarcasm, there's a strifing wit operating with him. When he wrote a novel, he wrote a autobiography. He called it "My Terrible Joys." There's melodrama with him. His first ambition was to be an opera singer, then a sports writer, then a race car driver, which he was in the 1920s. Ironic, sarcastic. It's a completely different world.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never would have known that. He just sort of became this caricature, and then everyone sort of based him on a caricature of this perfectionist who was always in a bad mood, and I never saw the fun side of him. And again, I don't know, his son died maybe at 27 or something. His son died at a young age, which must have impacted him pretty deeply.
Dino died of muscular dystrophy I think he was 25 or 26 in 1955. And meanwhile, he has 2 families. He has an illegitimate son named Piero, who's 12, and a very, very complex life. It is very much modernist. It's very much based in Modena. It's a different life than you'd live if you were in Milan or Bologna, which is only 45 minutes away. And it's
Piero. We interviewed Piero for our Ford, or the 24-hour, which is our Ford versus Ferrari doc. We did. Right. I think interesting guy, still around. Is it? So movies in Hollywood, it's sort of cyclical. Like, Ron Howard's Rush came out, and the Nicky Lauda story, and that was a very interesting movie, well done, and it did well, was well received. So then Ford v Ferrari came out, and now Hollywood is kind of going, okay, a car movie or something about Carroll Shelby or Ferrari, like. If it's sort of cyclical that way, and Brad Pitt has just signed up for a new F1 project that seems to be big. Right. Does it seem like we're moving toward the light as car guys? Because Hollywood doesn't have car guys per se, but if they're making money and things are successful, they make more of these themed movies.
Right. Well, I mean, before Ford Ferrari, no race car movie ever made a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory was that it's because they didn't have very good stories.
Right.
And I love a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that they're entitled to become a narrative, that they're entitled to become a movie. It's because I like them. So what was fascinating about Ford Ferrari was that there's a great story in the conflict between Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles and Henry Ford II. It was just a classical, great drama. And I always felt the same way about something, deeper about what was going on inside the life of Enzo Ferrari in these 3 months of this, fevered 3 months of 1957. And I think that's, I think so that way that's why we're going. But Ford Ferrari really kind of broke the pattern because it did very well.
Yeah, the story. The story was there with Rush as well. But I think you're right. I think when people make car or racing movies, they think it's about the car. And you always have to have the story, which is something you've masterfully captured over your career.
Yeah, I think it's got to work. Let me put it this way: you have to be able to subtract the cars and have a great story and a great film, and that's the test.
What are some of the films you've enjoyed the most over the years? Speaking of other people's stuff.
Wow.
Are there series that you're enjoying now? That TV's come a long way. There's a lot of good stuff that's on right now. It used to be a bigger division between television and theatrical stuff. Now they're bringing it all to all the streaming services.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff on. I mean, Succession is fantastic. It's particularly Brian Cox again, and the writing, and it there's no attrition. It's just excellent. It just keeps at the same. It's fantastic level. There's so much. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
I'll buy you a few seconds and tell you that Brian Cox was the original Hannibal Lecter, and I loved him in that role. I just thought I'd never seen the guy act before. I was pretty young. I think Manhunter must have been, 87, 86, 87, somewhere.
87, yeah.
87 in there. And it was a young Brian Cox. And he was so subtle. And he was not like Anthony Hopkins. He played it much more subdued way, but made him a lot more interesting. It was much more nuanced. It was less theatrical, but it made it a little more interesting for me. Did you discover Brian Cox, so to speak?
No, there's a great story behind that. Brian Dennehy was an actor, was a very, very close friend of mine, and he wanted to play Lecter, and I was kind of settled on. I got a call from New York saying, "Look, I'm going to prove to you what kind of a great friend of yours I am." He said, "You know how much I want to do Lecter?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, there's somebody who's better. There's a play in New York called Rat in the Skull, and there's a British actor in it called Brian Cox, and he's fantastic." And he turned me on to Brian Cox, and kind of sacrifice playing it himself.
Dennehy was the sheriff in the First Blood, for those of you who are curious who Dennehy is.
Right. Yeah, and he was in the first dramatic thing I did, this movie, The Week to Jericho Mile. That's where we met. He had a big role, starring role in that. So that was how I came on to Bronx, and then Tom Noonan playing Hannibal Lecter was a revelation through Bonnie Timmerman and casting, and then I put Tom Noonan as Kelso in a wheelchair in heat on a hilltop just above the 5, overlooking East LA. Looking downtown, and that character endures in a way. He intercepts microwave signals and is kind of an early savant of computer and signal traffic, intercepting it. And he continues to have, by the way, a big role in Heat 2. And I use Tom Noonan, so take him from Heat back to Manhunter into Heat 2, and kind of retain these connections.
Well, I know we have a limited amount of time with you, Michael, so I won't keep you longer than the next 30 seconds or so. But Heat 2, a novel, is available now on Amazon, wherever you find finer books as well. And get caught up on Michael Mann stuff if you haven't seen a lot of his movies or some of his movies. They're all great. And I'd love to talk to you when you come back in town after shooting the Ferrari movie. And congratulations, because I know it's something you've been working on for so many years, and it's just nice when it finally comes together.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Adam. I know you're a car guy and everything else, and I really appreciate being here and talking to you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll talk soon. The great Michael Mann, everybody. Jordan Harbinger, a different kind of sponsor for this episode. It's the Jordan Harbinger Show. If you're a fan of fascinating podcasts, and you are because you're listening to me, well, you should definitely check Jordan's out. There's an episode for everyone, no matter what you're into. Jordan will talk to Scott Adams about persuasion in a world where facts don't matter, or go inside the dark world of wildlife trafficking. You'll always find something helpful and useful that you can use, like routine changes to boost productivity or slight mindset tweaks. You can change the way you see the world. We enjoy the show, and you will too. Search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. That is HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER. You get that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. It is the Jordan Harbinger Show. Yeah, for those of you out there, I bring up Manhunter from now and again. Just go find that movie. A lot of you guys picked it up when you picked it up at Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is 92, 91, 92. I kind of remember I was living in an apartment in Santa Monica at the time with a roommate I hated, but it's like 90, 92, 91. So everyone picks it up with Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins in 91. But if you go back to 87, you'll get Brian Cox. Now, you guys all love him in succession. Brian Cox, young Brian Cox, is the original Hannibal Lecter, was fucking fantastic. I mean, how often does that happen? Brian Dennehy, the guy who's going to play Hannibal Lecter, goes, I got a guy who's better than me for that role. It's just so good. He's so diabolical. As a matter of fact, when they came out with the next one and they had Anthony Hopkins in it, I was like, I mean, everyone loved it. Was a revelation for everyone else, but for me, I was like, nah, I like Brian Cox better. The other thing they did, Michael Mann's version of Hannibal Lecter, is they actually put him in a facility versus a cave. Like in the Silence of the Lambs, he was housed in a cheese cave. I don't know many facilities that the government runs that have stalactites hanging from the fucking ceiling. I get it. They're theatrical license, but they don't hold guys in caves and transport them on refrigerator dollies in straitjackets. It was all kind of a jack off. I know everyone loves it, but go watch go watch the original. It's weird. It's like a federal prison. They don't put you in a dungeon. It's a prison. If you look at the first one, it was just white. Everything was like kind of sterile, and it was like a normal building they went into. Anyway, watch the original Manhunter, please. Based on, I guess, the novel, maybe the whatever dragon, the red dragon. Also try to figure that one out. Am I right? Yeah. Deep dive, right? You guys have not seen this movie. Nobody's seen this movie. It's a good one. It's got a little.
I watched it.
It's got a little 80s cheese on it, just a little kind of Michael Mann, kind of Miami Vice kind of vibe
there's a little
to it.
dusting of that.
A little dusting of that, but a good story and an interesting story. So there you go. Once again, Heat 2, a novel. Michael Mann. Poor guy has more ideas than he has time, and I get it. That can be taxing on a man's head. All right, so till next time, this is Adam Carolla for Michael Mann saying mahalo.
Make sure you get a copy of Adam's new book, Everything Reminds Me of Something. Advice, answers, but no apologies. The hard copy and audiobook are available wherever finer books are sold. Leave us a voicemail at 888-634-1744 and get your tickets to see The Ace Man. Get them right now at adamcarolla.com.
You own, you rent your home? Sure you do. And it can be hard work. You know it's easy? Bundling your policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you have so much to do already around your home. Why not make it easy? Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
All month long, the biggest movies are streaming free on Pluto TV's Popcorn Summer Movies. Watch star-studded blockbusters like Titanic and Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Or fall in love with charming rom-coms like Hitch and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. The best part? Pluto TV is 100% free. No credit cards, not even a sign-up. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies, TV shows, and more. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming now. Pluto TV. Hop in, watch free.
Do you have a group chat where you continuously talk about summer getaways but never actually go anywhere? Well, with Priceline, you can save up to 60% on your favorite hotels and also get amazing deals on rental cars and flights as well. And you can do it all from your phone. So stop texting and start planning. It's time to get more out of your summer. And you know, when you save more, you can do more. More adventures with friends, more unbelievable views, more walks on the beach, more unforgettable moments. Priceline knows every trip is a big deal, so tell your friends you found a great deal on the Priceline app and take your plans out of the chat and onto the road at Priceline, Priceline.com.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired their personal trainer as a caterer.
All right, folks, let's keep this line moving. You there with the tongs, picking up one Duchess potato at a time will not cut it at my catering table. Drop and give me 50.
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Okay, this is what we call the wild mushroom and asparagus dip, and press. Come on, let's get those plates above your heads.
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.